Welcome to Indigenous Earth Community Podcast. I'm your host, Frank Oscar Weaver. Today, I have a very special guest for you, all the way from the Philippines. I have JM, who is a fashion designer that is using organic materials to create beautiful dresses, gowns, and all sorts of very amazing clothes. And more importantly, inspiring the next generation of environmental leaders.
Okay, I'm JM Ganuan, aka JM or the Dahon Fashion artist of Municipality of Maitum, Province of Sarangani. And we're living in a rural community. I am also a member of indigenous people here in our country.
Ni ka daw ini, dang namo, dwata, dang namo, dwata.
This was a very emotional conversation because JM couldn't believe that someone across the globe was interested on her story, on the creativity, and on all the things that they are accomplishing with just organic materials that they find in nature. And more important, he couldn't believe that someone wanted to hear about the dream.
Since when I was a child, my ambition in life is to become a fashion designer. My gosh. But we're just poor. It's hard for us to achieve that goals. Then as a person has a talent, I I try to how can I express this? Medyo ano na lang.
As you can see, JM got very emotional. So that's why I brought in my friend Arjo Turner, a friend of the podcast, and also indigenous persons from the Philippines that speaks his local language. They came to help the conversation and give context. So you hear the conversation between me, JM, and Arjo as we discuss Dahon Fashion and how creativity can come from your surroundings and how the fashion is being used to protect the environment and more important, inspiring the new generation to care about the planet.
Falinga takoy, na duyun tak.
So as a child, Frank, JM wanted to really be a fashion designer, but because it's so hard with the reality of life that he had on, he could not really take on that normal fashion design route. So the nature have inspired him to make use of the raw materials around his community, and it happened during the pandemic when people got locked out and not much to do, and he ventured on. Mostly it was for fun, then expressing his creative juices using natural resources because he does not have the fabric, he does not have the materials to use, he does not have the machineries to use to really like do fashion like clothing line. But she only got access to natural resources. So why not start from there? The creations, it's called Dahon Fashion. Dahon is leaves in the Philippines, literally, because he is using raw materials that he saw around his community and put them together into wonderful pieces of kind of like fashion. When you look at the photos that he'd been sharing, they look like very much, high-end fashion, but they were literally leaves. They literally parts of bark or parts of plant materials that he see around his community and put them together.
So one of the things I was wondering is, do you start with a design in your mind and then you try to make a reality? Or you look at the plants and the leaves and then you make a design of what you see?
Po siya dino-drawing minsan, ma'am. Kung
Oh,
makita ko po yung materials, parang lumalabas sa
he is thinking it through his mind on what
po.
design he would wanted to do. But when he sees what available resources he has at his disposal that he can make use of around his community, then it will be much easier to execute the concept that he has on mind already.
Yung maging ano niya, gano'n po
No?
yun, ma'am.
He, even if he's not drawing his design, it is in his mind.
Nasa
And he said that when he see the material around him that he can make use of, then it's just automatically sinking in putting all those things together and then executing them to make something creative. The reality is that there's an indigenous person who is creative. It's his own idea. The ideation is his. The execution is also his. Because, see, you can plant whatever plant, those plants will just stay right there. But putting them together and making them those things until you see it done, you would never think that, oh, that can be done like that.
I invite all the listeners to check out MJ page so you can see the fashion designs for yourself. I'll have the links on the descriptions, or you can also visit indigenousearth.org to see these amazing designs. And what has been one of your favorite pieces that you have done so far?
Yung dried banana leaves, Ma'am Arjo.
The one with the banana leaves, the dried banana leaves, he said, is the one that he loves the most.
Kasi yun po yung unang ginawa namin, and then yun po yung ano talaga, yung hindi ko makakalimutan yung experience, ma'am.
So it started with the first design that he did, which is mostly banana leaves. But then when they posted it with his friends, they got mixed, kind of like commentaries. Most of them are negative. And the negative ones, they instead of them being bitter, they took it positively and they came out with better designs after that. So actually the negative comments triggered for them to do better. It challenged them to do better and create even more and polish even their creativity more.
To me, it's very encouraging that he was able to turn this type of almost cyberbullying that he received when he started to make his fashion into something positive, into an energy to drive him to become better. And when I asked him if he won the lotto, what he would do with the money, he gave me a surprising answer.
Yun po, isa po yun sa ano ko, sa advocacy ko na ano, makatulong po sa kapwa, ma'am.
He will prioritize feeding of the children in the community because that's his passion and his advocacy to give back. He will prioritize on uplifting his community, especially the well-being of the children, with respect to their feeding, and he will think of himself last.
As you can see, community is really on the front of MJ's mind. He really wants to improve not only himself, but the people that are around him. And that's have led him to participate in fashion shows in the school, teaching the new generations.
No, I'm very thankful din sa mga ano, like schools na nag-invite sa amin para at least ma-share ko yung ano po, yung kahalagahan din ng
JM is very concerned with the advent of technology these days that lots of the younger generations could not seem to care much about environment. So when he started with this Dahon Fashion, Dahon, by the way, means leaves in the Philippines, and so many younger generations have appreciated his art. He started to be invited as school and resources, especially in his municipality of Maitum. And recently they have their agriculture and nature fest as part of their school where they engage him as a resource person. And then instead of those students modeling in all of these dresses in, nice fashion, high end stuff, they were dressed up in natural resources that they can see from their environment to raise awareness that we have to take care of our environment. We have to appreciate what we have. And there's a beauty in our natural resources. And then they can be creative and they can engage and help raise awareness about the state of their environment. Because their town, the municipality of Maitong town, it's a part of it is really like a very nice forested area and very rural community, and still lots of great resources, abundant. This is a very abundant rural town that they pride themselves of the bounty that nature has afforded their community. So he is happy that he's able to inspire younger generations, that his fashion has become an awareness medium for them to appreciate even the rawness of things around them. Something that can be more fun and more creative.
I then asked MJ how we can support him and his passion to help the community, to help the environment, to unleash his creativity using nature. And he was very humble. He did not ask for much. So Arjo stepped in.
So one of their biggest needs, Frank, is of course gadget. The cell phone that they're using now for documentation is actually given by a friend who is based in from the non-indigenous peoples group based in Australia, but it's over 4 years, and it's also like super overused. And JM, I was crying because when he was mentoring to the school, to the high school recently, the students were using mannequin to decide, the thing. He is using his own body as the live mannequin for them to put in things together. So if they have a mannequin, they will be able to one of the most practical ways. So if they have a mannequin, they will be able to have more practical approach of like doing the designing.
There you go, folks. This is an easy way that we can help our friend JM by providing him a mannequin that he can use to create his designs so that way he doesn't have to use his own body. And he needs other things like maybe like a cell phone so he can take pictures of the fashion and glue guns and all sorts of different materials. So if you're interested to help, please reach out to JM directly because we have to support these indigenous creations that are very unique to this world.
He does not have mannequin. His self is the direct mannequin. So can you imagine, Frank, that they have to design, put the creativity together on over the live person's body and get it done for that particular like shoot that they're doing because they don't even have the necessary wirings, the needles that they would need to because it's all hand sewn together and putting the pieces together, glue stick, glue gun, some of the basic supplies. It's like a crafting supplies that you instead of using putting together the artwork papers that you have to sew together, he is using similar things, but he does not have those really.
I really hope the listeners of this podcast can really help and try to get a mannequin. How cool would it be if we can come together to make that possible? And then I ask, what is one thing that we can do to take care of the planet?
Take care yung environment sa pamamagitan ng kahit sa mga simpleng gawain lang ma'am, like like tree plantings.
Is really thinking about taking care of the environment. What people has to do is really taking care of the environment. And if we could plant more trees and more plants, and especially the ones that are endemic in the communities, so that they will stay long for the next generations. And he is aware about the impact of climate change, even in his own community. And if people will think and embrace that it is everyone's responsibility to take care of the environment in ways they can, then we will have a much better place to live in. And JM, do you think that your Dahon Fashion is a way for people to appreciate the beauty of our nature?
Yes, of course ma'am. Kasi kahit yung picture lang nga, grabe na yung pag-appreciate nila. Why not na
JM has a very good insight. He said that the Dahon Fashion, the Leaves Fashion is doing now, has become an inspiration to so many. By them documenting the leaves that are existing in their community, they were able to raise awareness about the beauty of the nature that they have and that they have to take care of it so that the next generations will be able to appreciate that this is what they have and they will not lose it. Because if they will lose it, then only those photos that they got documented through their fashion are their only reference.
I want to thank you so much, Jane, for coming on our show and sharing your story with us, your challenges, your creativity. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And thank you, Arju, for coming in, connecting me with JM, and always being a champion for your environment, champion for Indigenous people. So thank you both. I really appreciate it. And a big thank you to you, listener, for sticking up with us, listening to this conversation And I'm going to have on the show descriptions links so you can connect directly with JM and support Dahon Fashion. Thank you. Agoje.
Thank you so much sa pag-connect sa akin kay Sir Frank.
So JM is thankful for me for bridging him to you, and especially to you for granting him his first interview, talking about his passion and his fashion. At the same time, the passion of using the leaves for his fashion and the connectivity to the environment and giving him a voice to share this creativity. So he's forever thankful.
Ni ka daw ini dang namo dwata dang namo dwata falingga takoy na de yun takoy ni ka daw ini dang namo dwata falingga takoy na de yun takoy ni ka daw ini dang namo dwata.